Welcome, Sister Girls. I have a special guest. I'm excited. This is the last interview of the year of 2024, and I wanted to go out with a big bang. So, welcome back. She's an entrepreneur, an author. To me, she's an activist. I feel like you're an activist. And you are the founder and creator of one of the most viral Black literary gatherings online, Black literary movements, the Black Readers Appreciation Event. Can y'all please help me welcome Miss A. Lewis? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Hey, sister girls.
I'm so happy to have you. And I think you probably just think that, I don't know. I was just like, oh my God, we have to get it before the year is out because I really wanted to talk to you about just your whole entire journey since last year. And then I'm just like, okay, she's doing an event again. So we have to have her this year. So, my first question before we even get started, I hear that you're a great cook. So, the holidays are here. So what holiday food is your favorite? And what quick holiday food would you tell people to cook if they don't know how to cook nothing else? Cook this and you won't go wrong.
My favorite holiday food is dressing because
Hmm.
I don't make it a lot during the year because it's that one dish that I know my family will look forward to.
Hmm.
So I love a good dressing. And the thing is, I spent and people laugh because I'm like, not everybody can make dressing. It gets complicated. And I'm a sage girl with the dressing. And I told someone like I was on prep duty, probably in my grandmom's kitchen from the age of 4 until I turned 21, right? I was always on prep duty because you had to be anointed to cook certain dishes. So I was on prep duty. And when I finally got the opportunity to cook dressing, my grandmother said to me, don't you mess this up because it'll never happen again. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. And she said, you've been on prep duty your whole entire life. You got this. And I was like, okay. So when she nodded and said the dressing was perfect, right amount of sage, because that can get tricky for some, because sage will turn some dishes green. Um, yeah, she gave me the thumbs up. My aunt got jealous. I knew I hit a home run then. So dressing is that one dish for me that I really take pride in making. Um, and something that I think like if you really don't know how to cook or are you're culinarily challenged, if that's even a word. Um, let's go with I like a good rice dish. So I make a spicy rice and shrimp dish, which is almost a play on dirty rice, but instead you can use seafood. And you don't necessarily have to use shrimp, but you can use salmon, you can use crab. My son, when he was in college, even made it with the imitation crab meat. So there's a lot of things that you can do with rice. And if you have a good rice cooker, and some spices, it's a good opportunity for you to explore the spice world and to just play with a dish that I think everybody knows how to cook. Rice is simple sometimes, but let's make it complicated and a little bit more flavorful. So that's that one dish I think everybody should be able to play with is rice.
First of all, I love how I know that you know how to cook just because you explained it like that. Now, if you would have asked me, I'd have been like, all right, maybe some greens, and I would have moved on. You literally broke that thing down. So, all right, people may not know because I feel like when something goes viral, even if it's in a literary space, they forget the founder. And that's another reason why I really wanted to talk to you because I really wanted you to get your flowers and for people to really know the methodology behind it, like though you didn't just wake up one morning and say let me go do this, like you really had a goal that you wanted to achieve, and also that you're an author yourself. And I think that was that added the extra the sprinkles, if you would say, on the cupcake, because the icing was already there. I think one of the things I was most interested in knowing is just like, why did you want to do Black Readers Appreciation Event? And for those who don't know, it's a 5-day event, which during that time, Black authors open up their catalog, well, a piece of their catalog, and they select books that readers can access for free, right? Um, and it includes all genres. And as an author yourself, why was it important for you to create this type of event where you're freely giving something away when most of the time the idea is that you want people to buy your book and not just get it for free?
Well, 3 years ago, um, and I'm going to back up because what we see the Black Readers Appreciation event be today, um, versus where it started 3 years ago, there was a big shift. So during the year, there are a lot of opportunities to be celebrated as an author, because there's Black Indie Author Day, there's Black Author Day, there's National Author Day. There's so many opportunities for us to be acknowledged and celebrated for our craft. Well, came the end of the year, and November 1st is National Authors Day. And I said, I'm tired of celebrating myself. Let me do something for the readers, right? I said, I'll gift my catalog for free during that week. Um, and let me see if I can get a few of, my book besties to do the same. Well, I sent out a quick little message to 5 of my book friends, and I didn't hear back from them. And once I get an idea, I am an activist or an activator by nature. So, I woke up and said, hell yes, I'm going to do this. Who wants to join me? So I asked 5 people. They didn't get back to me soon enough. So I asked another 5. And I was like, what's going on? Are they not receiving these messages? So by the time I was done, I asked 20 people. That Friday, everybody replied back with a yes. And I was just like, oh, well, like, I didn't really want it to be this big. I just wanted to do something nice for readers. And someone said, well, I also told, 10 other people who told 10 other people, and they all want to do it with you. And I was just like, well, this is becoming too big for me. Now, there's a couple things that I do know about myself. Like, one of those, A. Lewis, that second A, that those are the initials of my name. That second A stands for trouble in Yoruba. So I used to think that was a negative word, but I've come to embrace it because I can get into some good trouble. And what this sounded like was a whole lot of good trouble about to happen. And I said, okay, if we're all going to do this, let's do it. And someone said, well, we need a name. And I was just like, I wasn't thinking big enough. So I was like, well, we're Black. Our readers are Black. We're trying to show them some form of appreciation by doing this. And organically, that's how the name evolved. And so we have the Black Readers Appreciation event. And I think the first year, I think I had about 100 authors. Um, and we gave away books, and there was some excitement there. And, the reader response was great. What happened for the authors after the event was even more spectacular, because they were starting to find their readers. And as an author who, myself, I don't write the traditional romance. I don't even tinkle or tingle, or I don't even dip the toe in that genre, because I like chaos. I like unhinged. I like sex. So you're going to find that in my book. So that's my lane. I write women's contemporary with a realistic view, and sometimes it's hard to find the writers that will appreciate your point of view and your storytelling. So I was like, great, this is a good way for us to connect with readers who, may have this, may be their first time introduction to us. Or, they've been a fan and now they get to read something different from your catalog. But it just spread like wildfire. Fire. And I was taken back, because I love getting into good trouble. But at that point, I realized this is going to be so much bigger than UAA. So you have to treat it like an entity. It is a business, aside from what you're doing as an author. Like, if you're going to step into this space, then you have to do it, wholeheartedly. So are you ready to accept that responsibility? And I was like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Now you need to organize. And over the last 2 years, that's kind of what I've done. But the Black Readers Appreciation event, or BRAE for short, what I've come to realize is that I don't set expectations for BRAE because it depends on a couple factors. One, are the authors going to show up year after year, right? And if I'm trying to make this an all inclusive Black event, then why am I finding it so difficult to reach those other authors in those other genres? And having conversations with people who don't write the traditional love stories, people who are in the sci-fi community, the LGBTQIA plus, writers, the fantasy, having them come to the table and discuss what are their challenges, has been one of those. It's been a pain point for them and for me, because I'm trying to convince people to follow me blindly, because this event does work in theory if we just do the work. And then I'm the expectation that readers will, show up year after year, because again, this is a celebration for them as much as it is for us. So it's been tricky to set expectations around that, but every year, like, this community shows up and shows out, and they are with everything that BRAE stands for. And I love that for us, because it gives us an opportunity to all engage on an equal platform. It's not, oh, they're only going to download, the well-known authors. No, no, we're giving them an opportunity to get to know all of us. And if you've done your part as an author, which the one, thing that I ask everybody to do is to promote, because people can't show up if you don't tell them where you're going to be at. So you do have to promote, because my job is to promote the event. Is to hype everybody up about what I know, because I keep a lot of it, concealed until the final moments. But once I share that with them, they're going to say, oh my goodness, she's there with this author, and this author is my favorite, one of my faves. So I know that they'll show up. So not only are they showing up for you because they saw you posting and promoting, but they'll show up for everybody else on the list. And it's an opportunity to explore other genres that you may not have had any intentions on reading. And what I like to tell people, those are the palate cleansers. Because when the reading community, when I hear people say, oh my goodness, I'm in a reading slump, I like to say, go try another genre, because what you need is a palate cleanser. You've been so immersed in that one genre for so long, it's probably starting to sound similar, like similar stories. So you're missing some of the spicy key points and elements of their storytelling. If you use those other genres as a palate cleanser, you'll be able to go back to your favorite genre or your favorite author with a new set of eyes and appreciation. So it works in so many ways, because it truly is a gift that keeps giving. Because if you're going to try other genres, who knows, you just might fall in love with other, fantasy, sci-fi, people's writing styles. You may have now a new favorite author, you know that you weren't anticipating or expecting to embrace. So BRAE is that one platform where we're all equals at that point. Because trust and believe, there were people like when Joan Vassar joined us this year, there were people who were like, I never heard of Joan Vassar.
Mhm.
And my heart was like, what? Like, because I'm clutching pearls, because like Joan is that girl for me. So
Mhm.
I go, it's we're equals when we all step on this platform together. And it truly is the gift that keeps giving back to the community. And I love that, because it's the exposure that most authors need. You may have the best book out there, but if we can't get it into the hands of readers who
How do
will
we know? Yeah.
appreciate it, how will we ever know?
Mhm. So one thing that I wanted to know, because everything you said was like spot on, the actual logistics of it. How do you plan something like this? Because in my opinion, from the outside looking in, every year it's gotten bigger and bigger, and the market in itself has gotten more expensive. Like this year specifically, I think in my opinion, like I said, from outside looking in, this was your biggest promoted, like marketing wise, where it was
Mhm.
like you didn't really have to tell many people. Like as soon as you open up Instagram, TikTok, like it was all there. Like even in our groups, before we could post them, they were already posted. I was like, well, thank you. But you know what I mean? It's like that type of thing. And so when you see that happening, does the first part of the question is how was it like making sure that because the website this year was very easy to navigate, like you
Mhm.
broke everything up by genre, and you made it where like people could easily access everything, whereas again from just being on site when I like
Yeah.
the space, it wasn't like that. That was an improvement.
Right.
And then you added author interviews, so every year you're doing something extra. So how was the logistics of that for you to even handle something like this while also being an author yourself?
Well, when I said I was going to step into this space that BRAE has created, I had to do it wholeheartedly. So by trade, I was a business banker for many years. I know what it takes to run a business successfully. I've coached to that. I've mentored millionaires and billionaires in spaces that normally somebody who looks like me doesn't get that opportunity to do. So BRAE is a business. I have to treat it as such. Every year is a learning curve. It's still a baby. This was only year 3. And they usually say success, if you can get to year 3, year 3, 4, and 5 are the pivotal points of the organization. It's where the biggest growth and impact happens. Now, I know that, and I also know that we have to do things differently. So I'm not afraid to say, hey, that didn't work the last couple of years. I don't want to go back to it. What else? What other opportunities do I have, and will it sustain us? Which means I have to have other conversations with people. And I also know that BRAE, as much as it is my baby, I cannot, it's not a one woman show. I have to have a team. And when I said you got to get organized, that's what I meant. And even after this year, I'm like, whoo, you know what? We need a bigger team next year because these are the areas that I know that we fell short. So I'm always looking to improve things. When it comes to marketing and promoting, I am very passionate about that because that's also, part of my trade. I'm in sales. I know what it takes to get people, to get them to pique interest, to get them involved. I am very much a let me show you instead of let me tell you, because initially what I am saying is follow me blindly. We're going to give our books away for me for free. Don't worry about the money you're losing, authors. This is going to be great because the end is so much better. Please follow me. Like in no other world does that make sense. But I also know sometimes we have to give in order to gain. And the part that we gain is so much more profitable than that 2.99, 1.99, 99-cent book that we just gave away. Because in the end, what I always hear are the success stories. Nobody's focused on the money anymore. People are focused on what they gain, and they've gained subscribers to their newsletter. They've gained active readers. They have reviews. There were some pages turned. People even went back and started buying other books in their catalog. Like the community will continue to show up. And as long as, I and the team, we do what's in the best interest of BRAE, which is we have to be able to accept where we fell short. We have to be willing to grow and not stay stagnant. But we also have to meet the readers where they're at. And which means, it needs to be easy to navigate. Um, there's some things with the website that, it was a new platform. We learned. They now know, our hosting site now knows, what BRAE is, because leading up to that, even in conversations with them, I was like, hey, it's not going to crash, is it? They're like, no. I said, hey, I keep seeing this happen. What's going on? And they would be like, well, what is this? So I literally got on the phone with them after the second day of BRAE because they called me and I said, oh, it's a book event. And they're like, oh, yeah, book events, it'll be fine. And I was like, I don't think you understand what's about to happen. But when those numbers came in, and we had the discussion. We're already working on the little tweakings that needed to happen during the event. They're already preparing it for me now for next year, because I said, this is what I saw happen. This is the feedback. Like, I filtered 36,000 BRAE questions. Like, how come I can't get, certain things to pop up when people go to do this? Like, so they're even evolving on how they're seeing, our event show up on their platform. So there's a lot of moving parts that happen behind the scenes, but my job is literally to make sure that we learn from our mistakes year over year and improve, so that BRAE is the experience that readers want it to be. And it's the experience, and it delivers on our end as authors, because ultimately anybody who participates, this is also a representation of you and your brand. So I don't ever want it to be a negative experience for anyone.
But one thing I love about BRAE is that it makes reading equitable, because I think a lot of people just assume that everybody can afford Kindle Unlimited, everybody can afford Audible credits, everybody can afford, and people will be like, oh, go to the library. But a lot of these books are not in the library, they're not available.
Right.
So to simplify and just say, well, go to the library and check out books. Yeah, but if I want to read this book or that genre with these Black authors, they won't be featured. So again, I'm being boxed out. And so that's one thing that I don't even know if it's been talked about, if you've been asked, but did you know that that's what you were also doing?
I did. I did.
Mhm.
When year one, the feedback from readers were, oh my goodness, I didn't think I'd be able to continue to read because I can't afford it. I have
Yeah,
to choose between my bills and my family obligations. So I gave up reading.
yeah.
um the introduction of audiobooks, because I kept having to tell people I won't have all the audiobooks, listen, but
Mhm.
I have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
As I also know we're excluding the visually impaired community by not offering, this as a choice for them to join us. And they love our books too.
Mhm.
And I'm an advocate for human voices. So I really don't want you to have to listen to, the AI voices. But if that's the only option, how do we change that? So just making sure I show up, and again, this is about the reader. um i I know for a fact, like, people are going to have to choose between groceries and gas and utilities.
Mhm.
We say 2.99, we say 3.99 like it's nothing, but for some people that makes a difference in, what they're able to do for their family. What BRAE does, and that's why I give authors the opportunity to give up to 5 books, right? Because I want you to be able to showcase, your favorite works, as well as maybe some of the favorites that have been circulating out there, with some of the readers. But to give 5 books gives the reader an opportunity to have a collection, right? We got to start somewhere. And if we all give enough, and I know this to be true, there's enough for a reader to go through the whole year without having to worry about, oh my goodness, I can't purchase that book and I really want to read it and everybody's talking about it. Gives them an opportunity to stack their Kindle or their e-reader, whatever they're reading on, and be okay knowing that they're still actively a part of the community, whether it's something that they wish they had read 3 years ago, and they're just now able to get their hands on it, or if it's something, if it's a new to them author, they have more than enough to keep them actively involved, and I love that for them.
I do too, because I think that was like the main goal or the theme rather was hearing on just like listening and watching. Like they're able to have like they've never heard of this author before and they're gonna give the author a try, or like I've never read this genre at all because I only stick to what I know because this is the genre that I know. Well, at least if I spend my money, I'll get a good return. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
those things they don't want to venture out, not because they don't want to, but it's like if I'm about to spend my money. It better not be somewhere where I'm gonna be like, dang, why I have to do this? You know what I mean? So it's like it's opening doors, and it's
Mhm.
also, and to me, in the long run, I think authors should it's hard to recognize in the moment, but if you're a visionary of any form, you get like, if they like this book or these 5 books, that you got to read it now for life. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're gonna choose you every time, because now you've given them not just one, not just two, you've given them some track to run with. So I think that's amazing. I want to go back a little bit to talk about, how did you become a writer, because an author, because I think that's like the big thing. A lot of times when these events like this are created, we see them be created from book content creators, book clubs, or like, other people that are within the literary community and not authors themselves. So how did you become an author, and who was the first person outside of yourself that gave you the courage to keep going, to hit publish?
Well, so I'm gonna take you way back because we've already connected on a whole nother
Yes.
level before the show, guys. So
Yes.
I uh I grew up in a very creative household. My mom is an artist.
Mhm.
And I was a theater major my whole entire life. So I went to high school for theater. I went to college for theater. I played in the theater for years until my family started growing and we moved away to Michigan. So I've always been a storyteller. And I would tell my husband for years, I'm going to write this story and it's going to be so good. And this is going to be my love letter to the city of Buffalo. And because I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. So if anytime I say 716, it's the area code for Buffalo, New York. So I would tell him constantly, this is what I want to do, because I was so far removed from being a creative. I worked in corporate America as a business
Mhm.
banker. There is no room for me to be creative. The most creative piece of me during that time, and I spent maybe 30 plus years in this environment, was me dressing up in my suits and changing my hair. Like that was how I showed up. Like so um I we fast forward, I the last kid leaves for college. So it's 2016. Last kid leaves for college. And my husband looked at me and said, "You're going to write that book now." He was like, "I know you've had articles published. You've done things as a published contributor for the finance world. I need you to write your book." And I gave him every excuse in the world. I was like, the kids have been playing with the laptop. I don't know what viruses are on there. He came home with a laptop, or yeah, a laptop for me. And I was like, I need an office. I need to create a space. And that man went downstairs and created a space. And I was like, "But I don't." He was like, "What else don't you have?" He
That's
was,
a good man,
yeah,
Savannah.
listen, he said, "Because I am clearing the path for you, woman.
Mhm.
Write that book." So I wrote it. And I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm done." And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You got to figure out how we get this published." He was
Mhm.
like, "You know enough. You know enough to be dangerous. Let's go be dangerous." So I published the first book and he was like, "Now you got to promote it." And I was like, "You're asking too much of me." He was like, "You've already at the stage where you're okay being vulnerable because you've written it." He was like, "It's not a book until you at least put it out there and one person reads it." So I put it out there. He purchased my first book. Like I saw one sale and I was like, "Oh, I got one sale. I did it." And then it came and I was like, "It was you." He was like, "Yeah, because I'm going to always be your number one fan." He was like, "Now that you got me, who else can you catch? Because I think this is a pretty dope concept, what you wrote." So I did it, and here I am today. um I write, and this is I'm in my own lane, people. I write Sophista Ratchet. That's what I call it. I write realistic stories with a sophisticated tone. But just because we are mature adults does not mean that we grow up mentally or emotionally. So I'm going to give you the drama.
Mhm.
I love a good spicy sex scene. I live in a world of chaos because I give it to my characters because it's not welcome in the Lewis household.
Mhm.
So I usually I give it to the characters because I want I want to cause conversation around some of these topics I write about. So yes, some of my characters are way out there, but talking about the family dynamics sometimes in our community is a challenge. Talking about our differences is sometimes taboo. And my characters will get you every time. They'll make you want to talk and scream and yell at me. But I think you also walk away with some aha moments or some self discovery moments where you're like, I've been in that situation. I probably could have handled that better. Or I'm happy I did it this way because that character didn't do it this way. But how many other women are not, thinking this way when it comes to these types of relationships? So I give it all to my characters because I want us to be comfortable exploring our growth as humans, if I can say it that way. So that's what you get when you read a book from me. But my journey has started many years ago because I've always been a creative. Well, I've always been in the arts. I always thought I would write comedy for TV, but I write books now. So and that's not to say that I won't get there, because if you truly know me, you know that I'm silly by heart. If you've seen any of my posts for BRAE, you're like, what is wrong with her? And
I
I'm like, because
have.
because that's my true nature, is that like I am funny, but I also consider myself a good storyteller.
Mhm.
So that is my journey. That's how I became an author. What was the other question?
At this point, though you answered the other
Okay.
question, but at this point, once you gave the husband story, because the other question was, who was the first person to encourage you to keep going? And you
Okay.
talked about your husband first. I'm like, we didn't have to go past outside of the husband. He can't do nothing wrong to anybody watching this now.
Listen, what I
Because
I had never known. And it's funny because we've been married. We've known each other our whole lives. And we've
mm,
been married for over 25 years now. And we still have fun together,
mhm,
which I think is so rare. But we've created this environment for both of us now to be creatives, which
mhm,
is really weird because he's always been the analytical one. Like
mhm.
I wake up and go, oh my goodness, I'm ready for this. Let's do it. He's like, hey, let's do some research. Let me figure out the cost associated with this. And I'm like, let's just do it. To now see him, come over to this side, and I have to be the person who goes, okay, hold on. Sounds
Mhm,
like you need a business plan, sir. Let's talk about this. Let me read up on it. He's like, now look who's being a little analytical. So we live in this space where we're constantly encouraging each other.
mhm.
And I love that he can call me out on my, can I cuss on here?
It's the sister girls. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
So I like that he calls me out on my stuff
Mhm,
because sometimes I allow things to get in the way, become a distraction
mhm,
to my creativeness. And he's like, no, remember, you never got into this to be famous or to get rich. You got in it because you love the art of storytelling. And as
yeah,
long as I keep that at the forefront, I can't go wrong.
mhm,
And as long as he's willing to read my books, um, and laugh and joke with me, then I've done my part. Because in my mind, like if he's my number one fan and he reads it, that to me is all that mattered.
oh my gosh, shut up, A. Lewis. Like we all sitting up here like, girl, not her making a BET Hallmark movie off of being a writer how she got started. And I do say BET Hallmark because I need it just like that. And by the way, you can curse. I was saying like, girls,
Okay,
sister
no, no,
girls.
I was just
It
like,
wasn't like we about to be PG what 13? Like
mm,
but I love that because I think most of the time people don't realize how lonely being a writer is. It's very like isolated. You're not in a group think or you don't even get feedback until because my space in journalism, you don't really get feedback until it gets to the editor and come, but you still don't know what the public thinks about it yet until it goes out to the public. And then
right,
even when you get the good stuff and the bad stuff, it's like, well, dang, I didn't even consider that. Or I didn't think that you're very isolated. So to have somebody encourage you and then also create a way that's saying like, yo, you will be okay if you just do it. I think that's very like encouraging. And also my next question is if people had to start with one book of yours, what would you tell them would be the first book to start their journey into A. Lewis land?
um I so I love, there's two books, it and it depends on your mood for reading. But I would start with The Dark Side of Light. I think
Mhm.
that probably is one of my favorite books. And I'm looking at it on the bookshelf when I said
Mhm.
that, because I'm like, which one would I choose? The Dark
Mhm.
Side of Light. Now, hear me out, because when I have to explain this, people are like, what? So it is a very quick read.
Mhm.
It follows the journey of Tony,
Mhm.
who is a transgender female.
Mhm.
And she's a scammer, y'all. So she ends up in an all male prison because in the New York penal system,
Mhm.
you it's not it's not who you identify as, it's who you are born, especially if you have not transitioned all the way. So Tony finds herself in a male prison. And can you just think of the drama that happens there and the chaos? But what I love about this story is that Tony goes in feeling very much alone. Um, but by the time she comes out, she has a full-fledged family, y'all. Like, and it's the characters that are in the book that have surrounded her, um, that give her the opportunity to grow as a human. So I put her in a very chaotic situation. And yes, there's some drama and foolishness, because that's what you're going to find in every AA book. But the ability to humanize her aside from who she identifies as. When I tell you the male response, the hetero male response to this book is the best, because I've had husbands who have read it with their wives because they read, another book of mine. So they're reading it together, and there's a whole couple reading group. There's three of them that read this book. And when I tell you, I was scared to jump into that book discussion because I was like, oh, I don't really want to hear what the men have to say about this topic. They were like, I'm Team Tony. I need to know that Tony and Pooch are okay out in this world. Are they going to have another book? Like, I was like, no, he didn't. He was like, I was ready to fight. But then they got vulnerable with me and they were saying, I knew a Tony. I wish I could have done some things differently. I wish I had stood up in that space. And he was like, it was a different time back then. So I'm talking to men who are, you know 40 to 60 age range, and some 30-year-olds, and looking at how we've changed in society of acceptance, and what was not normal back then is now considered normal and acceptable, and the role they played in their younger selves, how they could have had, could have done some things differently, that aha moment. um that self discovery, those conversations were so worth it. And I was so happy that those were the takeaways from meeting Tony in The Dark Side of Light. And like I said, it's a quick read, but it's so powerful because that reflection of self and being able to humanize somebody that may not, the society may still not deem as acceptable, and putting them in
Mhm.
chaos. All of that could go very wrong. And being that I'm not part of the community, even writing something like this could have gone very wrong. And the first thing that I did do was I reached out to the community and I said, hey, should I even be writing this? Because this character is
Mhm.
talking to me. I just don't know what to do with it. And, I heard what they would like to see happen. That book right there is probably one of my favorite characters. The collection of characters, the ability to tell the story and have it still be impactful, was important to me. So I love that. I think that's my favorite story. And this is the best part, ladies, is that my husband is the narrator of the book, and it did win Audio in Black's LGBTQ audio book of the year last year. He had never read that book, so he was about to lose that number one fan, status, because this was the only book he did not read because of the subject matter. He didn't know how messy I was going to get, and he didn't want to take that chance. Now I had listened to, I think it was about almost 50 male narrators trying to cast this for audiobook. and I couldn't find one. So I was getting very depressed because I was like, well, this just won't make it to audio. But it's such a dope read. It needs to be heard in audio. And he got tired of me moping. He went down in the booth. He came back up. He played it for me. Now, he had never read this book. So this is his first experience with the book. By the time he was done, he was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss Tony and Pooch. And if you read the story, you're going to die laughing when you find out who Pooch is. But these two characters, he said, I cannot believe how he was like, woman, that is a good book. He was like, that is a good story. He was like, and for me, this being my first reading of this as I'm, telling it, he was like, this here, this is you. He was like, this right here gets the stamp of approval. And he said, I kick myself every day for not reading this book because I should have known you would not have done whatever it was that was going through his head. He said, I heard the subject matter. He wanted no parts of it. And he will tell you that was one of the best stories that he's had to read. Plus, it pushed him to the creative side because he had to play two feminine male voices
That's
and be
interesting.
able to bring them to life. So that
That
was
is that is amazing, and what a way to sell a book, might I add? Because the way you told that story, I'm like, the people are gonna go download that today. Um, First, I love books that like have quote unquote taboo topics. We actually did a article about like the importance of having topics discussed within the Black literary space because it normalizes it. And I know normalize is like an overused word, but it does. It makes it like it's not okay, but it's because to say okay means like to say that you're wrong, but it makes it feel like it's everyday conversation because we've humanized it in a way, and you're able to have these conversations that is just past like, oh, boy meets girl, we fall in love, and that's it.
right.
It's way more nuanced than that. You know what I mean? And so I think what you're doing by using it through literature is not on, and it's also making people imagine, well, what if that was me?
Mm-hmm.
Or in my life when I was in those situations, how did I handle being like that to this person? What was I in my best behavior? Did I
Right.
humanize them, or did I treat them like less than? Or even like your husband, he wouldn't even read the book. He said, you know what, I'm gonna pass on the book. I'm not even gonna read it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's amazing. Honestly, I think that's amazing. Um, so we're almost done. I wanted to know because what you had to me like phenomenal energy, phenomenal like events. You're an author, you do all the things, and you always do it with a smile. Like I've never seen you like show up in no mess. You always encouraging, but I do know that you're still human. So with every crown, there's always a cross. So what has been your crown? Some of your crowns, and what have been some of your crosses on this literary journey?
So that's a good question. I let's start with the crosses. Because and I've been very vocal about my health issues since the start of most of this. So for those of you who don't know, I'm one of the 1% who has not recovered from COVID. And I was fully vaccinated. I contracted COVID. I now suffer from neurological issues. Um, I I lost my left lung, so I have asthma now. Um, uh, it that could go on and on for days, and I'm in constant pain all the time. Like my legs are in constant pain, so it's thrown me for a loop. And for a very long time, I allowed that to be the hindrance. It had become who I was, a very angry person. And uh this is how you know me and my husband we're very truthful with each other, and when we get off track, calling each other out on our bullshit is a key. That it has to happen, because I would rather hear it from him, because I know it's coming from a loving place, than hear it from a stranger. So he was like, get it together. Is this what's going to define you? And I was like, yes. because because I was used to showing up a certain way. And like part of the neurological issue is now I have Bell's palsy, which is facial paralysis. So sometimes my face is crooked because I'm going through, an episode with Bell palsy. And someone who wanted to be in front of the camera, who loves being, at events, like, can I show up like this? Like, are they gonna accept me? So I played with all of these crosses, these burdens, in my head. And I said, okay, he's right. You have to get out of this. You are so much bigger than what's happening to you. Like, you've overcome other obstacles. Why is this such a hindrance to you? So I said, okay, this is the new normal. I probably will not, like, my lung is not coming back, people. uh your face might be crooked most days. Yes, you got 3 inhalers, but can you still write that book? So it may take me a little longer to do it. um my engagement and wanting to do lives may not always be where it was before, but I'm gonna still show up because I owe it to myself. I owe it to this community. And if I'm going to activate around something, then you need to be seen. And the most important thing that I've learned from this community is sometimes they don't care how I show up, they just want me to show up. And that's the beauty of, TikTok and Instagram and all the other social media, is that they just want to hear from me. So I cannot allow all of this to derail me. Is it a setback? Yes, but for every setback there's a comeback, and I usually come back even harder than before. So I'm okay with those crosses that are now attached to me. They become positive ornaments instead of negative displays of my inabilities. Um, so and this is what I do. I love that for me because I confront them and we move on. Like, if you're not having a good day today, let's just not have a good day today. And what I've also learned is that I have to ask myself, how are you right now? Because right now may not be later on today. So what are you capable of doing right now? Right now I can do this interview. Like, I'm prepared to do this interview. I'm not going to allow any of these ailments to take away from having a conversation, because this is what I wanted to do today. But yeah, that those are the crosses. Those are the biggest ones that are out there for me. And they tug at me every day, and every day I tug back. Um, it just kind of is what it is. But I no longer allow them to be a negative force in my life. Um, the crowns that I wear, I just love this community. I love being an ambassador for narrators. I love connecting the dots for people. I remember what it was like to be a new author, and I still consider myself new, because this journey changes, and you learn and you grow. And I don't allow myself to be ignorant by default, because now I know. Once you know better, you do better. And that's where I'm at along this journey, is, the things that I've written a couple years ago, go back and re-edit them, girl, because now you got a good editor. Like, those are the growing curves that I'm on, and I want readers to get the best of me. So that crown, I love showing up for the new authors, making sure that, if I can help them navigate some of the pitfalls that happened to me during the beginning of my career, then let's do that. I always tell people the information that I've gained as a business banker, working for non-melanated people and making them millions, I can give to you now for free. Just respect those hours, 9 to 5 people. But but I want us all to succeed. So I don't mind being called the auntie. I don't mind being called the literary plug. I know enough information for all of us to be dangerous, to make some money, and to be successful. And I feel the need to share that. And that's a crown that I'm aware proudly, because that's just who I am. I'm rooting for all of us. Somebody said I was the most neutral author. Like, And I said, because I'm gonna be fair. So if you don't get anything from A. Lewis, you're gonna get fairness. That would be the one takeaway. What I do for one author, I'm gonna do for the next. And that's just because that's being right. That's the integrity piece of me. Like if I want you to succeed, then I gotta want her to succeed too. Like if she comes to me, with needing help and assistance, then who am I to not give her that? What she does with that information is up to her. But I'm gonna be fair in all things, because that right there is the foundation for how we all succeed. So if I can give freely to this group, I got to give freely over here too. um and being a wife and a mom and a grandma, like
Mhm.
that's a crown that I wear all the time. And A. Lewis represents all those components, because I like to think that I'm motherly in my advice. I'm giving in my time and my love for this community. And I show up for all of us, even when we can't show up for ourselves, even in the negative moments and spaces. I'm still championing, because I know that as a family, sometimes we get dysfunctional. But my job is, and I don't even say as an elder, but as an auntie in this space, is to make sure I can get us back on track. I could remind us, hey, I remember when you were like this. So what
Mhm.
did you learn from that? What can you teach somebody else? And I'm always push people out of their comfort zone,
Mhm.
because why not? Why are we still in the same place? Why are we not evolving? Why are we not embracing each other? It's okay that we all write different, and Lord knows it's enough readers out here for all of us to be successful. So it doesn't hurt to support each other.
A. Lewis, you done said 25 words. Like it was a word after a word after word. So I'll address certain, like as much as I can remember, and then I'll let you go. Or I have more question, I'll let you go. First, thank you for being that, like, because I think one of the things that I try to do with the Sister Girls Book Club, and we try, because it's like the same thing. We started off really small, and then out of nowhere, kind of like we like, wait, so now you got to go back and be like, hey, well, what is this? Like, how do we properly steward this? And I think one of the things that you've constantly said is you try to be fair, and that's what we've always tried to be, just be fair, because we can't get everybody, but we want to be fair to everybody. So if you come and you have a million followers, whether you have 100 followers, just be fair. And I think when people come, and I think you're the perfect person for this job to have, Bray, because you need someone who will properly steward other people's dreams, because that's what they're coming to you with. They're coming to you with their dream, so that if I come to you in this way for advice or to be a part of this, that you will properly steward it. Like you won't be egotistical about it. You won't like get a big head, or you won't say, well, this is my thing. You've already said early many times over that this was bigger than you. So you had to think and design. You had to really think about it more and really say, okay, now this is a business now. It's not just me sitting up here saying, hey guys, come together. So I really think that that's amazing in itself. Um, I think that you are light. When you even told me about talked about the COVID, I'm like, every time I came on your page, I was always saying her makeup looked nice. I never even her hair looked nice. That's and I like that's as soon as I came when I was like, she looked nice today. I'm like, you have like a vibrancy, and then also you're beautiful. So it's like it matches. It's 1+1, right? You can be a pretty person and still be mean. So it kind of like you'll see somebody be like, they cute, but it's something about them that's missing. You know what I mean? And it's like their spirit. And you have both. And so when you said you coming on camera, I'm just like, what? Like that's ever a thought. And I also think by you telling your story, you're gonna encourage so many people who literally like, I won't come on live because I'm scared. It's like, well, A. Lewis is coming on live and she has this, that, and the third. It's encouraging, and it's your testimony is going to inspire somebody just to show up, right? And I also lastly just want to encourage you to keep going, because you've done something that we always try to do, is that I've noticed that people in this space want to be a community, because every 5 seconds we're always arguing, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's about what's a real genre, page length, is urban really supposed to be here? It's always an argument. But I always say it's the special people, the visionaries that can create something that make everybody put their swords down just for 4 days, just for and rally around something and be positive. Because I promise you, when certain things pop off, there's no turmoil. Like I don't hear, and if it is negativity, because some people just wake up to be a disaster. Um,
Right.
you know, it's minimal, or people like refute it for you. Like people were working on your behalf for you. Because like even I was telling people, I'm like, well, when you do this, go here and it'll come down. Like you got to do the steps, okay? It can't just be, you know, like really walking them through it and having the patience of like, this is what is you're. It's not wrong. You just move. You're just navigating it wrong. You trust
Mhm.
it, like you know. Um, and so my point is like you've done something where people can just come together and really look at this community and say, ah, that's what I love about this. This is what I like. We're all just celebrating. And it's benefiting not us individually, but us as a collective. Because when I say it takes over TikTok, it crossed over so many ways that my friend who doesn't even realize that, she was like, yo, I saw that flyer. I was like, where did you see it? It was on my For You page. I was like, how? Like, it's crossing over because it's that big.
I,
And so,
it
man,
was, you know what, to see what happened this year.
this year was big. I don't know if I'm sure you noticed it, but I was like, this big.
So it was funny. I have a nail appointment today.
Mhm.
Because I have Houston, the Boozy Book Tour. Uh,
Shout out to Houston and the Boozy Book Tour.
yes, and I was in the nail salon the day that BRAE happened, because um my husband was like, "You've been in the house for 3 weeks straight. Go handle yourself." And I was like, I know, but it's BRAE time, and he does not like BRAE time, y'all.
I can imagine.
He's like, I don't like. He's like, I'd be happy for you, but I do not like BRAE time. So I go to the nail salon, and I'm in there, and I see people. And you know, you sort of overhear a conversation. And I was like, are they on the BRAE website? Because she was like, oh, did you see the sweatshirts? And I was like, what? Hello. And so like I just said, hey ladies, didn't know if you were aware, or if you're an avid reader, if you're thinking about getting back into reading. Like I did the host view, and I said, go to this website. They were like, we're already there, thanks for sharing. And I was like, okay. So now the salon is crowded. So the same first two ladies that I spoke to, because I told all the, you know, all the black ladies in there, I was like, hey, go to BRAE. You thank me later. So I'm getting ready to cash out, and the two ladies come up to me and they're like, oh my God, we know who you are now. And I was like, don't say that. Shh, I'm just getting my nails done. And she's like, no, like you always say you're from the other side of Michigan, but you never said where. Oh my God. And she and I was like, no, 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 no. Shh. And so the receptionist is laughing because she knows. And they were like, but you're A.A. Lewis. And I was like, so the other lady was like, hold on, you're on TikTok. You're BRAE. And I was like, I am. Thank you, ladies. Have a good day. And they were like, no, you have to stay and talk to us. So I was happy in that moment because they had even discussed the popularity of BRAE, but also their confusion around some of the beefs that happen in our community. And I said, you know, what we don't want to work ourselves up with is that. Like, stay away from those negative pieces, because I said those will always change. What won't change is the authors who are putting out their best work for you. We want you to be active readers, not active contributors to the mess. I said, the same way you stay away from mess in the family, I said, well, think of us as your family. Sometimes we go on one. We always got that auntie and cousin that can't get right, but we still love them. I said, and we move on. And then when they get right, we welcome them back into the fold. I said, that's what just because we write stories doesn't mean that we're not human. And sometimes we just don't mix, and it's okay. But BRAE gives you an opportunity to see us all be happy and here for you. And I love that you ladies are now all downloading books. And even the one older woman who was getting her nails done, she was like, but there's no Christian books. And I was like, there's a whole page full of Christian books. I got us covered. And next year I'll get even more of what was missing, because now I found other avenues to take to get to those other genres. I said, no, it'll just keep growing. And next year you'll be even more excited about what's about to happen.
I love that so much. So just because I mean I would have been in nail salon too, like that's A. Lewis, y'all. Let's stop it, y'all. I would have ran up.
I know, you know what? Because I'm so, because my husband will say you're hood famous, and I'm like,
That is funny.
and I love that.
I've always
Except
aspired to be hood famous, literally.
except for when I'm in the grocery store trying to get
Oh, yeah, do
tomatoes for
something.
taco night. I just want to get
Mhm.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
Uh, but I said, being recognized for something, doing something positive is a good thing, because
Mhm,
so many times it's always the opposite, right?
mhm,
I said, no, I don't mind. And I'm a people person. So if you come
mhm,
up to me, and this is why I love doing events, is because it gives me an opportunity to forget about everything else that I'm
mhm.
carrying. And I
Yeah.
just get to be the author, and I get to engage with the readers.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, so I'm gonna always show up and give you 100, 100%, because that's what I need in order for me to feel good about
mhm,
myself. Because so many times, when the cameras are off, and I'm at home, the other crosses start to sink in. Like,
mhm,
you would never know, and I
mhm,
probably shouldn't tell you because I want you to freak out, but I've had 2 blackouts while talking to you, part of my neurological issues. But that will never stop my engagement in what I have to do. You invited me to your platform. I love Sister Girls. I've been a fan forever, because I've been an avid reader before this,
mhm.
but I've watched you, and now that I know that we have a connection, like, she's in
Yeah.
prison. Like, I was like, hey, now, I would never want to show up and disappoint you
Mm.
or your platform. So I try to always give my best.
Not you making my eyes water. I'm from Brooklyn. We don't be getting eyes watery up in here. When you said that, it
Listen,
really like, because the
and
whole
I'm
time,
representing Brooklyn
yeah,
today.
that's what I'm talking about. Let me stay on topic because I think that what you said was very like, I mean, as soon as you said 2 blackouts, I'm like, oh my God, should I? I was in a bit thinking about, can I get you water? I'm
No,
over here, and I'm
I,
like, literally, because I was like,
I've
did
learned
I
to
keep
manage
it on too
it.
long? What did I do?
No, no, I've learned to manage it. It's, you know what? It's triggered by light. And it snowed today, so it's a lot of natural
Yeah,
light filtering through the house. There's nothing that I could do to stop it from
yeah,
happening, but I can make sure that, like, I don't freak out for you.
yeah,
Cause I'm
yeah,
just like, girl, you know what it is. It's
yeah.
this
Yeah.
one probably gonna last just a minute. Keep talking, keep going, just breathe. Everything's good. Cause before, I would panic and be like, oh my God, I can't see.
Yeah,
And I
uh-huh.
would be like, no, that's not healthy. Figure out how you're an actress by trade. Figure this out, girl.
Mhm.
You better learn to act right during this camera.
Mhm. I
So
know that's right, but I don't wanna get you out of here before we talk about your new anthology that's coming out. That's the one thing that was at the top of my list.
you talking about this?
Anthology is coming, yes, I'm talking about that one. I was like, "Y'all done got the Avengers of the literary industry to come together." So can you talk a little bit about that? So let people let you know, yes.
2025 anthology almanac. So
Mhm,
first of all, I was pleasantly surprised that she asked me to do this with her.
mhm, and the idea is amazing, so just talk about
Yes,
that idea too.
and it's 12 authors.
Mhm,
So just so you know, it's Cassandra Charles, L. Kaysen, myself, C. Monet, Kaylin Hunt, Vivian Blue, um, Fernando Katari. These
mhm,
we're active contributors to the Just Read reading group.
mhm, okay.
So that's how it all came about. And that group came about because of BRAE. So their job, what they do is they actually read all of the books and discuss them in
Mhm,
their group. All the books that were free for BRAE. So I love that for BRAE. I love that for them. But this anthology, so it's 12 authors. Each of us were given a month to write about
mhm,
and showcase our writing talents. Now, I asked her, is there a theme? She said no. But everybody started writing romance, erotica,
mhm.
and love stories. So I was like,
That's
oh,
the theme.
yeah, I was like, that's the theme. I said, because like I was one of the holdouts, because I was like, what else? What is everybody else writing?
Mhm,
And she tells me, and I'm like, oh, I gotta write romance. I was like, okay, you could do this. You can write a decent romance book, I think. What I wound up writing, everyone, is a story that takes place in New Orleans. It is an erotica paranormal. It is the introduction to this character. that I had happened to actually encounter in New Orleans. Um, I, I, we'll get into this, and I can do a whole live, and y'all can catch me over there. But when I tell you, the Whistler is a soul sucker. You can take that how you want because it's an erotica. He's a soul sucker. And he preys on women in New Orleans. And because I have September, usually that's the change of the equinox where, we start to go into fall season. Well, the Indian summer or the second summer is happening. So it's even hotter in New Orleans. And it's also a time where you get to know October, is a change in the spirit realm. So I dabbled a little bit in that. And the soul sucker or the whistler started talking to me, and he was telling me how he preys on his women. So you actually get to read a little bit about this character and what happens to an unexpected visitor while she's doing work in New Orleans in my September story. Now, his story will be out hopefully March of 2025. And it is a doozy. And I had so much fun writing this paranormal erotica that I was like, is this going to be something else you're going to add to the repertoire? Because, baby, when he told me he was a
That sounds fun. When you said soul sucker, I did not think anything else but what the gutter that my mind went right there. Ain't go nowhere else. It's
soul
unfortunate.
sucker. And I was like, when I found that out, I was like, sir, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, well, I think I could write about this. So yes, so hopefully you'll pick up the anthology. The 2025 almanac anthology. Read through the stories, and I like to use the tagline like there's 12 stories: romance, lust, oh no, love, romance, and lust. Which month are you? Because these some of these authors did not play. Like, I mean, like, I expect some romance from some of these people, like, but when I was like, oh, I'm not the only person going to hell. You too going to hell? Like, I'm gonna be a good company, y'all.
In the club, we all fam. In hell, we all fam.
I'm in the club because I was like, oh, and even the editor was like, Miss Ma'am, how did you come up with that? And I was just like, I could tell you the story. You probably won't believe me, but I was like, either way it goes, I'm writing his story. He told me he's a soul sucker. That's what he does. And I said, and I felt good after I wrote it. She was like, please tell me there's another book. And I was like, oh yeah, there's gonna be another book. I was like, the fact that she capped me at 10,000 words, because I was like, I could keep going. I could have given
Especially
you
with a story like that, just like all the backstory, it's so
yes.
many questions I got just off of you explaining it.
Listen, in his story, which comes out in 2025, I started with the backstory on how he became who he was to him present day. I wrapped in the rest of that story in it in a nice little bow, and I was just like, please don't make me write a part two, because I was like, I don't know how much more this man could do to us, and he not really here. so, so I was like, yay. So I hope you enjoy it, because I'm excited about
I'm
that.
excited too. And I feel like I love anthologies because, like, whether you like longer books or whether you like shorter books, it's something for everybody, because you can read story by story. You can read straight through as like a whole part thing where it's like a big chunk of book, or you can just read it at your leisure.
Right.
But thank you so much, A. Lewis.
Thank you
Talking
for
to you, this has definitely helped me in the year off like the best way possible. I feel like your light is shine so bright. I feel like you're an encourager, because I see that on the internet. That's when you said, oh, you like us. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy she likes us. Because again, you never know. You're on social media. We don't know too much like how that goes up and down. You can't really
so,
gauge it. You just want to.
so this is me. I have to be respectful of the reader space. And I always tell authors, when you see book clubs, like I actively watch, and I might like and thumbs up
Mm-hmm.
I pretty sure I have your newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I like to stay in the know, right?
Yeah,
But
same.
I'm also an author.
Mm-hmm.
So me being in that space, sometimes it's hard for me respectful of how I show up. So I try to do make my presence known as minimal as possible, because I don't want to disrupt anything. And I never want to come in there as the author. I always have to remember, in these groups, I'm the reader. So
Mm-hmm.
don't you say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you comment, because where's that comment coming from? Is it from an
Mm-hmm.
author's perspective, or is it coming from a reader's perspective? And it gives me time to adjust accordingly. But I've been a big fan of y'all.
Thank you.
Big fan.
Thing
How could I not? Y'all have one of the biggest events out there.
I was saying was that it's hard to gauge how people view you on the outside looking in, just as because we're working in a small group, so we don't know. We're just trying a lot of stuff out, and we're always trying to be the solution to a problem wherever we see fit. And so it's like when I find other people that are trying to do that too, or even just have the potential, or just new, I love new things. So I'm like, new authors, new this, or people trying to cultivate a different space. That's why I love like book content creators, because they're always trying to do something new, something fresh to like promote. Because the thing is, we're only just promoting, we're promoting books. So in the level of coolness, it's like I could just be following the rappers up. So it's like, to even capture the attention to create that, it's not it's not easy, right?
Right.
So it's like to be a part of this community and see other people pick up that mantle and just say, I'll carry it with you, or all like, I see you, sis, like you're not over there just grinding out for nothing. That's really a compliment, because like I said, our goal is to acknowledge and give light to everyone else. And so even by you saying like, yes, I'll come and be on an interview, because I'm like, this is the holidays. Ain't nobody trying to be in on interviews. But my point was is just saying that you see us and we see you, and like just to see that level of positivity. And because it is a balance, like we need people to highlight things that are not right, but we also need people to come up with solutions. So
Right.
just by you like being a solution oriented person and even coming on here and giving us like a compliment, it means so much. So don't ever think like, oh, people tell them that. No, like, it really means a great deal. So thank you. And I think my last question to wrap this all up is like, what is your hope for your career as an author? And what is your hope for, see, everything is cutting out, your hope for your career as an author, and then your hope for BRAE in itself?
Well, let's start with BRAE. My hope for BRAE is that it continues to be a platform um, that grows, that can connect readers to authors. That it's important to me that it remains as free as possible for everyone, um, and that uh, we we start to recognize and treasure our storytellers. And it's important to me, especially in this day and time where we have people who tell us our history, um, our creativity, our creativeness, our ability to talk about what's important to us is being muted, controlled, and told that it is not worthy of being had. Like, and that bothers me, because for so long this has been the main way, or the main platform for us to continue to pass down legacies, to pass down our history. I we have to have a platform where we can do that. We have to be able to share. Reading, we know, and words have power, and they strengthen our communities, whether even in the fictional space. It's an escape from us, for many, from our realities and our day-to-day life. We have to be able to provide that for each other. And BRAE does that. And I just want it to continue to grow. Which I know it will, from all of the feedback. Well, the authors that are waiting to participate next year, it's global. Um, I love that as Black people we can come together and be united for this. Um, as far as me as an author, I just want to write, and for me, just being able to tell stories that bring us to the table around conversations. I like tackling the messy subjects, the ones that are taboo in our community. I think I do it in a very realistic way that allows us to humanize our experiences. I'm gonna always give you drama and sex, yes, because as I love that. But the engagement part, after we've talked about the characters, watching people grow from what they read from my stories, I like that. I just want to continue to write. And as long as my health permits, I'll do that. I'll give you messy. I'll give you ratchet the best way I know how. But just being able to show up as my authentic self in this space is so important to me. So that's what I want. Like, I know movies and all that other stuff that'll happen.
Mhm.
Right now, I need to remain activated around this journey and the movement that I've created. So
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much again, A. Lewis. Your light is just like I said, and like it shines so bright. And I think everybody gonna be reading that anthology just for the blood, the sucker of the soul. Cause I know I'm sitting up there like, really? What day is that come out again? Um, and just thank you for everything that you do for this space. And I appreciate you. And that's it. Sister Girls, that's it. Our last interview for this year. A. Lewis. You,
thank
you
you.
gave us everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.